Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me here. After several times of being a discussant, it's nice to have been elevated to a panelist and a presenter. I have the disclaimer that you heard yesterday from the Federal Reserve. These are my views, not my affiliations. I also have the conflict of interest, and I don't have any conflict of interest with providers. The reason why that's important is my views are based on 20 years of being a practitioner in this business, of leading the 7th largest 401k and defined benefit administrator, and then the 2nd largest employee benefit insurance provider in the U.S. My business has served 20 million workers in the U.S., 3,500 employers over corporations, unions, not-for-profits, higher education, and government entities. We'll come back to that. There is a racial wealth disparity. We proved that yesterday. But there's some real opportunities to make a difference. With the passage of the Secure Act, Secure 2.0 as part of the Omnibus Act of 2022, and new innovations by financial services providers, there is a suite of employee financial wellness programs that are available at the workplace that hold the means and the opportunity to close racial wealth disparity. And the question and the purpose of my paper is, can they do that? Can they make a difference? Can they close the racial wealth disparity? I want to define employee financial wellness programs in these 3 buckets. There are many definitions for employee financial wellness. My definition is these 3 buckets: building assets or reducing loans, debt. The second piece is risk management broadly. And the third piece is decision support. Decision support, advice, benefits administration is often the underappreciated part of employee financial wellness programs, but actually where the most innovation is happening. I'll touch on the items in red in more detail in a minute, where there has been some substantial advancements recently and real promise. First, there is a real business case for employers to offer financial wellness programs, from my view and my experience, beyond altruism. Certainly, many employers are interested in altruistic outcomes. Those that tend to be not-for-profit, those where their employees are their human capital, like higher education, those that may not have high wages but want to have strong benefits like government. We talked about the availability of pensions for blacks in particular yesterday in government, but also in not-for-profits. We see that there's a higher benefits proportion relative to overall salary. But beyond altruism, there are real benefits, and that is employers want happier workers. They want them to be more loyal. It reduces turnover. We've seen that workers that are less financially stressed, and financial stress ranks up there in the very top stresses of all workers, that they are more productive, that they are more present, that is, that they have less absences along the way, and that they actually are more productive. There's a bottom line for the CFO that looks at his or her numbers for their business or their organization, and there is a real benefit here. And then there's a real benefit for employees as well. And we saw the accumulation of wealth in retirement plans in particular yesterday at the workplace. But the reason why that's the case is because there are so many advantages that employees get by saving through the workplace over what they could do as a consumer by themselves. And some of them are listed here. They get the advantages of autos through payroll deduction. They get company matches, incentives to do this. They have default choices, so they don't need to be able to make all the choices along the way. And the list goes on. Important ones are tax incentives, pooled risk, purchasing power by being a large organization, getting access to institutional money managers that they normally wouldn't get, and the opportunity for personalized decision support at scale. We'll come back to that in a minute. So employee financial wellness programs, almost by any way I've seen them measure, can make a difference. That is, they're necessary, they're impactful, but they're not sufficient. And They are not sufficient to close the racial wealth disparity gap. Why? Because they don't cover everyone. What we've been talking about covers full-time W-2 workers at medium to large institutions, which is about half the workforce. It doesn't cover small workers at small businesses. It doesn't cover self-employed. It doesn't cover part-time. It doesn't cover 1099 workers. We have a bifurcated workforce that is becoming more bifurcated, those that have access to benefits and those that don't. And those that have access to those employee financial wellness programs get all those benefits, and those that don't can't make it up in a consumer point of view. Not only that, but employer financial wellness programs don't cover the entire scope. They don't cover housing, like we talked about yesterday. They don't cover access to capital. They don't cover an ability to invest that capital in entrepreneurship. If we go back to the list of financial wellness programs, the autos and consumer behavioral finance has worked so well in defined contribution. We, as an industry, as a practice, as a policy, have not applied them to risk management solutions for the very most part. And they can be applied there practically, but they have not been applied there from a behavioral point of view. They also, decision support is questionable. The research shows that it's questionable on whether or not it's effective at actually changing long-term behavior for everybody that we want to target, especially low to moderate income families. And the current wage disparity starts people at different starting points. People that start on second base can get to the home plate much easier than those that are starting at the batter's box. And the accumulated differences of that wage disparity prevents employee financial wellness programs, which are all a function of wages, from making a difference. Now, I don't want to be too negative. They're necessary, but they're not sufficient. That doesn't mean that there isn't great opportunity to make a continued difference if we focus on areas that can make a significant change at the workplace and capture all those benefits by having more coverage and by having better outcomes. So the first one I want to talk about is paid family medical leave. What is this and why does it exist? 40% of Americans lack 3 months' worth of emergency savings at the poverty level. So when they are sick or have to be caregivers, they have to choose between a paycheck and caregiving. This was especially acute, as we all saw, in 2020 and 2021. The federal government passed a temporary paid family medical leave reimbursement for small employers, thinking that medium and large employers would do this themselves. That was incredibly helpful. It kept sick people or those caregivers out of the workplace while continuing to provide enhancement for the economy. There are efforts at the federal level to have paid family medical leave. That is a federal program that would be a private-public partnership. It would be funded through a tax solution that would collect premiums from everybody, but private insurance would allow you to opt out of it as long as you had it. It would give between 4 to 8 to 12 to 16 weeks of paid family medical leave, which allows you to take care of yourself if you're sick, a loved one, a dependent, and allows for maternity-paternity time as well. That's the usual definition. In the meantime, 10 states and the District of Columbia have offered paid family medical leave. This imitates the auto IRA solutions that I know David will be talking about along the way. And it imitates that sort of behavior and is an amazing solution for emergency savings and provides real stability for families during their most stressful times. When I've been talking to employers, this is the thing that they are focused on most at the moment. Secure 2.0, which was part of the omnibus budget bill, also included a provision around using the workplace to pay down student loan debt. Whether or not you think debt is a good thing or a bad thing, you can certainly agree that the debt is negative savings, negative investing. And it's simply an arbitrage between the interest rate you're paying and the interest rate you could be earning. This program allows workers to pay down student debt through the workplace and gain an employer match into their 401k. This provides real opportunity to improve people's balance sheet and encourages savings. Because I have 2 minutes left, I'm going to leave emergency savings for David with one statement, and that is pension-linked emergency savings programs work. I piloted them in 2016 and 2017. They're easy for employers and providers to set up. They make a real difference in lowering loans and increasing savings so that people have more stability. The last bit, as the summary of the paper suggests, I want to talk about just one thing, and that is decision support. The most fundamental question that is still unresolved is how to deliver financial advice at scale to low to moderate income families. Answering the question, where should I invest the next benefit dollar? And there is a difference between what employers want to do and what's best for employees. And it's a non-trivial question to know where to invest the next benefit dollar. If I had one area for research going forward, that would be it. Thank you so much.